interesting topic for tonight, talking about why you're not as good of a guitar player as you might think. So hopefully everything is going good on the stream right now. And thanks for joining. Thanks for being here with this. If you have any comments, this is definitely going to be a video for lots of comments. So if you have any thoughts or you wanted to say anything, put it in the comments below. Anyway, we'll just kind of dive in here now. I was going to do a whole setup with my guitar and do some acoustic guitar lessons, but I couldn't get the setup the way I wanted it. And I've been wanting to make this video for actually a number of years, believe it or not. So I thought I would dive right into it. So this is the, here's the thing with this topic is insecurity as a musician. It is very interesting. In my years as a player and playing in different groups and all of that, how much insecurity there is with musicians. I started playing when I was about 9. I got kind of serious about it when I was 12. So growing up, I've always played. And so I wanted to share a story with you that kind of describes what I'm talking about. And then I actually have some legitimate thoughts on why I think that musicians are insecure and kind of proof that we all think we're better than we really are and what to do about that. So when I was growing up, I started, like I said, getting into guitar pretty heavily around 12, 13 years old. My neighbor played drums and we got together all the time and I goofed off, and my best friend played piano. And so we started a little garage band and all that. And I played a lot in church on like a contemporary worship team and acoustic guitar mostly. And so I'd played for, from, let's just say, pretty solidly about 6 years. So from 12 to 18 when I went to college. Now, music theory and all that, I was actually pretty good with, I think, but I was completely overestimating how good I was with guitar. And so I went to my first guitar lesson. As a music major, you have to choose a primary instrument, and that was guitar. My secondary instrument was percussion. And so you got to take a certain number of lessons, and I actually ended up really loving the lessons. And so I had my first semester of lessons with the guy in Tulsa. His name is Jim Bates. I've tried to look up Jim Bates and become friends with him on Facebook. Apparently he probably doesn't even remember who I am. Anyway, I went into my first lesson with him, had my guitar, and I literally was so delusional going to my first lesson. This is true musician delusionality, if that's even a word, which it's not, of how I thought. And so in all transparency and vulnerability here, this is what I thought was going to play out. I thought that he would think, finally, somebody I could work with. That's what I thought. Okay, when I play for him, he's going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been putting up with all these like amateurs. Now I can like really, really, teach somebody. Okay. So that was where my mindset was at, was where my thought was at. And so I go into this lesson and, I pull out my guitar and he's talking and, asking me questions, how long have you played? What styles have you played? And have you taken lessons and all these different things. And I, for the most part, was a self-taught guitar player. I did take lessons for a little bit, got my basics down, and then kind of went from there. So he said, well, why don't we play something? And I was thinking, awesome. I kind of had something worked out. I'm going to just kind of chunk it out and on the guitar, and he's going to go, man, you're so amazing. So he reaches back. He has this like bookshelf kind of to his side, and he pulls out a beginner's guitar reading music, like notes. And like literally the easiest guitar book you could possibly have. There wasn't like a teaching book. It was just simple songs to play through. I can't remember what it was called, but he pulls it out and it's the Beatles' Let It Be. And, if it was the chords on top, I could have handled that without any problem. And he goes, well, just go ahead and play the melody here. And even though I could read music in my head, I had not spent time playing music on my guitar, reading the notes and playing through music on the guitar. So I played through as best I could, with this limited amount of practice that I've ever put into it. And he stops me like maybe 8 measures in. He goes, all right, we're good. I can see that we're going to have to start at the very beginning with you. So he says this to me, and like, so I went from being like the man, thinking that I was awesome, to going like way down, like the bottom rung, not even the bottom rung, like you're not even on the ladder. That's how bad you are. And I appreciated Jim Bates for saying that. Jim Bates wasn't even a primary guitar player. He was a bass player, and he was teaching, and he taught me so much over the years that I had him as a teacher. But the point is, there's that mindset of like, we think sometimes that we're better than we are. If you look at YouTube comments of not my videos necessarily, but just any guitar videos, you will see people just immediately compare themselves to others and try to make it like where they're better than someone else. So I even feel this sometimes today. A friend of mine texted me like a little video he recorded on his phone. He was at a bar and there was somebody playing, and he was like, "Man, this guy's really great," and recorded the guy playing and sent it to me and said, "Hey, is this guy really good?" And like, I watched it, and like, what was interesting is the first thought that I had was, I'm going to see how he's not good. I'm going to see like what he could do better, or, well, yeah, but that's just that, whatever. Like, and that was where initially my mind went to. And I watched it, and then I'd messaged him back and was like, "Yeah, dude, that guy's a good player." And so what is it with that? Why do we do that? You may be able to relate. If you've done that, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm just the only one. I don't think I am, but I think that it's pretty common in musicianship, in the music world, comparing yourselves to others. That's insecurity and all that kind of stuff. And here's the reason why I think that it happens in our brain, and this is how it applies. So I've got this kind of worked up here. It's kind of an interesting thought that I've had over the years on this. So here I am. I'm gonna, whoop, where'd it go? I'll just do this without, I don't know why that's doing that. Anyway, we're just going to go here. Not, my face won't be on it. So, this is what it kind of looks like as far as a musician's life. Okay. Now let's imagine that there is this amount that you possibly can learn. Okay. So here is the amount you can learn, like this. I'm going to put amount to learn. Okay. So whatever this is in your mind, and that's important too, because it's not really defined, this amount that you possibly could learn. And you have like you would start off with like nothing. Okay. And then all the way over here is 100% that you'd have here. Okay. So 0% to 100%. And then we have like a little line here that would represent this. Now here's the thing. To get to this half mark right here, this 50% mark, this is not super hard to do. That 50% mark is not something that takes, like, I mean, it's difficult, it takes effort, but it's not something that is going to just be it doesn't take lifelong commitment to do that. So this right here, let's just say, for example, okay, just basic example here, that it takes 5 years of practice to get to this 50%. Okay. So this is 50 right here, 5 years to get to this. Okay. So this little, the time frame that it took here is 5 years equals 50%. Okay. Very good. That makes sense where we're going there. So this would be me. This would be me at like getting serious around 12 or 13, going off to college at 18. And, you know, let's just say I got 50% of what I thought there was out there, I was able to accomplish in that amount of time. Now here's what happens is, whatever time that it took to get to here, okay, to accomplish 50%, that same number of years or same amount of time, it's not always years, because if I like, you know, spend 5 hours a day practicing, that's not going to be 5 years. It might be 2 years. It might be 1 year. If you're a prodigy, it might be whatever, but like whatever that time is. So we're just saying, so it's not necessarily time in the sense of like days, but really the time you put into it. But whatever, it takes 5 years to do that. Then the thing is, the next 50% from this distance to this distance is how long it's going to take to go to the next level, which would be 75%. Okay. So it took us 5 years to get to 50%. Okay. But it's going to take us 10 years to get to 75%. So that's how long it takes to get to this distance here. Okay. Now the same thing applies. The distance between here and here. What is that? That's like 87.5%. So 87.5. That distance there, same thing. It's going to take 15 years. It took 5 more years to get to that point. 87. I'm going to just put 87.5%. That's how long it takes to get to here. And then if we keep on doing this, I think it's 93. 93 would be 20 years to get to here. Here, half of that. Let's see. I think that's 96, somewhere around there. 25 years to get to this part. And let's do a couple more. We've got 30 years to get just eking out just a little bit more, which would be like 98%, something like that. And then finally to 99% over here. Where are we at? Is we're going to be, so we had 98 and 99. Can't even get them in here. Is going to be 35 years. Okay. Hopefully you guys kind of follow that here. I probably should have drawn the chart out a little bit better. So this, again, this is called the law of diminishing returns. That's where, like, and you'll experience this if you're ever buying an expensive guitar. You think, well, $1,000 guitar or a $2,000 guitar, is it twice as good of a guitar? No, it's not. There's a point where you get the law of diminishing returns where you're just getting a little bit better. So as you can see here on this, these distances here, this is great. 5 years, 50%, awesome. 10 years, 75%, man, we're doing pretty good. 15 years, okay, 87. Then we start to go, man, all of this practice, we're starting kind of about right here, whatever that is, I'm only getting like 6% better, so like this is worth 6% right there. And then you go, okay, well, 5 more years, I put that, it's only worth 3% more, and then 1.5%, and then finally like 0.5% to get any better, but the same amount of time that's going into all that. So what ends up happening is people will get this spot right here. This is like the sweet spot for people. This is where most people die out right here. And very, very, very few people go to the next level with their playing, which is fine. It's not, nobody is saying that whatsoever. Nobody is saying that you have to just keep on going and just practicing forever. But that is what happens. So this is like the sweet spot for most people, and maybe even like kind of even before the 50 right here. So just in my experience, I will find there's a lot of people that kind of live in this world, and because it's the amount that they perceive as to learn. So again, there's always more information out there. There's always something else out there, and it doesn't. So even what your perception of like what is, there's not a peak to the mountain. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's not a marathon where you're running however much a marathon is, like the 10 miles or whatever, the 20 miles or whatever a marathon is, 13, 26 point, whatever it is, that there's an end, there's a finish line to that. The life of a musician, there's no finish line. It's always going a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And you have to enjoy that whole process. And when we live in this world, when we live in this, it's very, very easy to compare yourself to anybody around here. Okay. Because you think, man, I'm kind of on the top end here. I'm in the 85% here. Well, maybe you've been doing, you're like, man, well, I'll tell you what, nobody can, like, I must be like somewhere around here at a certain aspect of playing. So you might be like, I am an awesome shredder. That's how you spell shredder. You might be that in certain aspects. So here's where it really gets crazy. So like in your mind, think about this picture. Okay. So this graph here, I'm going to kind of redraw this and not do it as detailed. I'm going to make it smaller right here. So watch this. Here's where it gets kind of discouraging, but it should actually be encouraging. So imagine this: you've got your, your time, your thing here. You got your line, and you got your practicing, and you've got all this stuff that's happening here. In order to get to that, this right here is one genre of guitar playing. That's one style of a player. Okay, there are people, and this applies to anything you're doing, by the way, not just music, not just guitar. I'm a jiu-jitsu practitioner, and it applies to jiu-jitsu just as well. All this stuff, as far as like the time it takes to you to get to the halfway point. Anyway, so this right here, let's just say you're like, okay, this is me, and this is me playing the blues, and this equals, let's say, I'm somewhere in that 50 to 75, and so I've put in 10 years right here to get to this, and I'm on this journey. But guess what? There are all kinds of different journeys and different styles of playing. So there might be another one that is, it's doing the same thing, and it's like, I think it's flamenco guitar. That's how you spell it, if I'm not mistaken. Flamenco guitar. So if you want to get discouraged, realize, or encourage, look up, on YouTube, flamenco guitar. See who's like the best flamenco guitar player in the world. And they're playing a classical guitar or a flamenco guitar, and they're going to be so good at that. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, I really, really, really stink. So it's all about who you're comparing yourself to. If you were comparing yourself, say there was some style of guitar that only played, a G chord, I don't know, whatever, some style of music, and on guitar, you only played G. Well, you could get really, really good at that. It might take you like a couple days to get to 50% on that. And you might, so you might be in a month period of time, you're like the best at playing a G chord. Well, if there's a different style of music beyond that, it's going to take you some. So in other words, looking at all the different styles there, I mean, there's, we could look at, there's blues, there's flamenco, there's bluegrass. I'm going to just kind of write some of these out here. If I can spell heavy metal. I'm not a metal player. So like these guys that, I might have spent some on here, and I might be kind of in the middle, 40%, 50% over here. But then there's guys that they're killing it on another genre of music. Let's see. I'm just going to write some about country. What else? There's a lot of stuff. You can kind of wrap some of these in here together. Folk, there's kind of, there's pop. You might kind of think of that. There's different genres. Sometimes they overlap. You might have, jazz, and then you might have, fusion put in there a little bit, and kind of merge some of those. And blues is kind of over here, and big band, there's even sub, genres of this that, you might have to spend, it might take 15 years to get to the 15% here. Let's see what else. There's, Zydeco music. I played that recently. All right. We had a band come in and playing that. But even just like rock, something like that. There's, reggae, punk, that might be some kind of in the rock world, but you get what I'm saying. There's all these different styles. Classical guitar, that and flamenco's, it's similar. Progressive, which might be kind of in the rock world, but you get what I'm saying. There's all these different styles. So what's encouraging about it is you look at all these different ones, you will never be great at all of these. There's just not enough time in the world to practice all of these on a level where you are like in the 99th percentile of all of these right here. So even if you feel like, hey, one of these things, I am just off 99%. I am a 99%er right here. I am a 99%er right here. That may be true, and that's awesome. But if you apply and and if you try to learn one of these other genres, you're going to get, that journey to 50% is going to be a little bit easier because you have some skills, your fingers know what they're doing. But if you try to transition this over into classical, Okay. You're going to start off, you know, you're going to start off in like the 5% here. I mean, like these two things, they don't relate to each other that well. It's still guitar, still the same instrument, I guess, but it's not exactly the same. Others might, if you were, if you were good at blues, you probably, like, let's say you're a 75%er over here in blues. You know what? You're probably a 50%er in country. If you can play progressive rock, if say you're a 75%er over here, well, there's a lot of things, you're going to also be right here. You might even be more over here, but let's just say you're 75 in that style. A lot of those would relate to each other. It might come over here and go, well, I'm not as good, but I'm a 50%er in there, just because of the way that they relate to each other. If you're great at blue, say you're 50% in bluegrass, well, in a country, you're probably going to be a 40% in bluegrass, because there's some things that are similar. If you're like a 99th percentile in jazz, there's going to be a lot of stuff that it's going to be helpful for you to play in different genres. The point is, even if things do translate, it is difficult to really truly assess what is better. So that question of like, well, who is better? That is the wrong question to ask as a musician. There's really no such thing as better. I mean, you could apples to apples compare somebody on something, and there are some musicians that are better than other musicians, but in the grand scheme of things, there's more information out there than one person could even realize exists. Guys that have spent, honestly, look up a classical guitar player. And just, if you feel like, no, I'm actually really, really good, and just look up somebody and see how you think you would be able to handle that, and then realize that they read that sheet music, that they know how to read sheet music. If you don't know how to read sheet music, you're like a 1 in a lot of different genres. So that's that's it. There's like the law of diminishing returns, and there's the different styles of those diminishing returns, and then there's even the different aspects of different instruments. Like here you have acoustic guitar, and you have electric, and you have classical. So even just learning these guitars, different guitars, being familiar with them, you might be great at, acoustical pop, you might be a 75 here, but on electric, you're not. You would be, like a 25 or whatever the case is. You might be great, acoustic on a country, you're awesome. Yeah, fingerstyle chicken pickers. That's another one. If you just want to feel like you're less of a player, just YouTube country chicken picking, and there are some guys there that will make you just go curl up in a ball, and because the technique that is required in order to do that is just crazy. The amount of time that it takes, and it's a subgenre of something. So I might be a great country acoustic guitar player, but the guy playing the Telecaster chicken picking behind me, my mind goes, man, that guy's way better than me. Now, he may not even be able to play acoustic as good as me, but you guys feel what I'm doing there. And then finally, there's different styles within the style. So if you're a rock musician, there's rhythm guitar, but then there's lead guitar. Well, I'm a good rhythm guitar player, but I'm not a really good lead guitar player, or whatever the case is. And every one of these genres has different things about it. So hopefully you liked this kind of video, and you're encouraged by it. The things that I would want you to be encouraged with is that, number one, don't let anybody put you down or make you feel like that you are lesser of a player in any given moment, because they're better at you than something. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm getting at. I'm going to share a story here in a second. I'm going to get some comments. I just refreshed this page and realized you guys have been commenting, but if for whatever reason wasn't pulling up. So let me look at some of these comments. Troy says, hey, how's it going again? Or hey again. Nicholas says, my friend does that too. I'm sure he's talking about comparing. Troy says, I see myself as least knowledgeable musician in the room. Yeah, man, I'll trying to think of which stories to tell, but there has been a number of times where I am the weakest link in the room, and I really enjoy that experience sometimes, and I've really not enjoyed that experience sometimes, for different reasons. I've enjoyed growing from that. Here's a good example. There was a person one time in Nashville that her name was Christy. I can't remember her last name, but she was a musician. She was actually signed with somebody, and she said, "Hey, I'm playing this bluegrass thing, this gig. Can you play bass?" And first of all, I was like, I'm just, for clarification's sake, I'm like a guitar player that has a bass guitar and I can play bass. Like by definition of, I know the notes on the bass. And since it actually gotten a lot better, but I still recognize that I'm in like the 25%, right? So she was like, "Oh, you'll be fine." And it was bluegrass. So I show up to the bluegrass rehearsal with these guys that are like bluegrass players. And it's a different style. It's a different style in country. It is a different style. They were awesome because they showed me and they taught me the genre. They taught me how to play. Not necessarily like how to play the notes, but like, no, you need to play this rhythm. No, you're too busy there. You don't need to do an extra lick there. You just be solid. This is when you put that extra thing in there. They told me the genre of the music. And though I was the weakest player in the room, especially because I was playing bass, they helped me out through that. And I grew as a musician. Now, I've also been times where I've been the weakest player in the room. And then it's like people are kind of like, "Oh, gosh, that guy." Well, you know what that is? Those are insecure musicians that aren't that good of players. And you can always tell a good musician, a player that is good, because they recognize how this whole thing, they recognize this. They're like, yeah, even if I am good, there's a lot that I'm not good at. So that was a story that I thought was really great when you are the weakest player in the room. The Taco, let's see, Reverend Taco's Entertainment Channel. He says, "I'm sick of guitar, bored with it. So I started learning keyboard, and guess what? I'm better at keyboards." That happens. It really does. Very cool. Basil says exactly what Zach Wilde said the other day when he was asked who's the best guitar player. His answer was the same as yours. Awesome. Yeah, very, very, very true. That really is this is true stuff. Lillian said, "There is so much to learn. I'll never get bored." There's so much to learn, musician. That's true. P.S. Zach Wilde is Ozzy Osbourne's guitarist. Thank you very much. The Reverend Tacos again says, "Basil, you play guitar. Ever tried something else?" Anyway, you guys are having a conversation. Been learning keyboards. And then Troy says, "I can hold my own, but if I see it this way, it stays fun. I don't want to play to be work. It then becomes a headache. This is why I said that comment." Yeah, no, it's true. Like, there's nothing wrong with being like, there's nothing wrong with being like a 10%er or 25%er in musicianship. There isn't, if your goal is not to be like a top musician. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so like when I lived in Nashville, I had aspirations musically. I had a composition degree, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to write songs, and I don't want to be like a front man. I don't want to be touring or anything, but I thought I could probably write music and, just make a killing. That's how people make more money anyway. You make musicians on the back end instead of the front end. And so, and I realized I'm not good enough. Like, there's guys that dedicate way more than I'm willing to dedicate into writing. And it's not that what I was writing was bad. It's not that other people would go, "Oh man, poor guy, that's just a horrible song." No, but it's like, I didn't have it in me to write 1,000 songs to be like good at writing songs. I also thought, man, I'd love to be like a studio musician. These guys come in, they're just top players. They get the music, they play through them, they get paid. Like, that's what I want, a studio musician. And I thought, getting out of college, I thought that I was kind of there at first. And then I realized, crap, I'm like barely at the 50% level on these guys. Probably not. I was probably like in the 10% level of the studio guys. So it just kind of all, you have to kind of all decide what you want to do with it. I've taught a number of people over the years when I was teaching lessons that would say, hey, I just want to learn a few chords on the guitar so that when my family goes camping, I can pull out the guitar and we can sing some songs around the campfire. Like, hey, that's awesome. You know, give me like 2 or 3 months of lessons. You're going to be there and you're going to have a great time. Your kids are going to love it. And it's just going to be great. You had no aspirations of releasing an album, being a professional musician. That's all good. That is all good. So don't let other people take that away from you. I'll tell you, here's another funny story. When I was in college, there was another guitar player that played on the jazz band. And this was, you know, we were all insecure musicians. So everything is like always trying to one up somebody else. You're always trying to stand out as the better player or whatever the case is. And this is one of those where like rhythm guitar jazz, I mean, this is again relative to the level of playing. I was really good. I was good at rhythm guitar. I knew chords well. I knew theory well. I knew how to fit and lock into the pocket, how to not step on people's toes, the other musicians and the combo section. Like all of that I got. I am still not, and I certainly wasn't then that great at soloing. And this other guy that played guitar, it was the exact opposite. He was really good at soloing, in that comparatively type thing. But man, he just kind of didn't get chords as much and didn't really, I mean, I'd listen to him play. I'm like, no, you need to lock in here. And then he would have the same thing with me. Rather than helping each other out, we would kind of like try to take digs at each other in a weird musicianship way. And, but it kind of came to a head one time. It kind of stopped a little bit after this. Somebody, our band director, who was insane. He was a bass player and he was awesome. He said something like, he referenced B.B. King. He said something, you know, like B.B. King. And then this other guitar player goes, oh, B.B. King, he sucks. And so he says that. And then like the band director was like, really? You think B.B. King sucks? And he's like, and he asked me, he goes, Kennis, do you think B.B. King sucks? And I was like, no, I don't. I think he's awesome. And it kind of had this, like, everyone was like, dude, you just said that B.B. King sucks. Now here's the thing. I understand kind of what he's saying. The video, there's a documentary behind the scenes video, Rattle and Hum, YouTube. I don't know what the documentary is called, but they show how B.B. King is like they're backstage and they're talking about this song they're going to play together. He's going to play on the tour for this one show. And B.B. King says something like, somebody says, well, like, well, what key do you want to play it in? And he said, I don't know. I don't know chords, you know? And what he was saying was like, don't throw up any chord changes with me. I just want to get up and play the blues. So, and they were like, okay, well, we'll just play along with you. You know, oh yeah. And somebody says something like, yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Point is, like, he wouldn't, if you just gave him a chord chart, he wouldn't be able to read the chart, I guess, according to what he was saying in the documentary. I'm sure he probably could, but like, that wasn't his thing. But man, his feel is insane in the way that he's playing, in my opinion. I love B.B. King. So again, it's all relative. All right, let's see, keep on going. Let's see. Learning is a goal, not a percentage. Yeah, that is true. And hopefully Carl said that. Hopefully I use this percentage thing as I'm talking about it, because that's kind of how people naturally start thinking. As you get better as a musician, you realize that it's infinite. There's like this, it can go on forever. And, but anyway, in order to kind of articulate this, that's what I was using for the percentages. Troy says, you nailed it, Kennis. Reverend Taco says, Kennis, have you looked into those cheap $100 buck guitars all over the internet that look like Fenders? I have not, but I'll look them up this month. Pooh Ninja, that's a great name. Pooh Ninja says, I'm a 1%er because 95% of my jokes fail. Okay. So if 99% fail rate as a stand-up comedian, that would not be good. I'd say around the dinner table jokes are probably better. Anyway, I'm just joking around. Carl says, Kennis, have you looked under the tarp of the music industry? I'm not, Carl, let me know exactly what you mean by that. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. Rick says that was Rattle and Hum. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the behind the scenes documentary. Or it was like a DVD that came with the album or something like that. I can't remember. Troy again says, I love the album I have written. I am happy with the style I play and I'm really good and am a really good guitar player. That said, I enjoyed what I ended up after 34 years. Yeah. I mean, be proud of, let me just say this, that this whole thing is not in any way to say to diminish how you feel. I know like it's probably a little clickbaity, the title of this stream, but I'm not saying you should feel like you're not good, but there's a difference between like feeling like you're better than everyone else and feeling like you've arrived or like, oh, I'm awesome. Like there's like this thing that happens and the feeling of no, like I am good. I feel I'm at a good place here, but you're not, but the reason why you feel that way is probably because you understand the balance of that. You know, I mentioned this earlier, but I did jujitsu. I actually just got back from jujitsu. I'm still sweaty. I put a shirt on and came up here. That's why the stream got started a little bit longer. Anyway, the reason I'm saying that this applies to jujitsu as well. So jiu-jitsu has 5 belts. I'll just say it really quickly. There's white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and black belt. So you could look at this as in terms of like, oh, the black belt that's the goal. That's the 100%. It's not. You know, guys that have had their black belts 10 years, there's like different levels of that. And I'm not even talking about like what rank they are. Just their game is better. But so to get to a black belt, it takes about a year and a half to get your blue belt. Okay. And at blue belt, you kind of have about half. You pretty much have seen most of what you're ever going to see. You're not good at a lot of stuff. There's some things you're pretty good at. And then it takes about the same time to get your, that distance there, that same time to get your purple belt, which is going to be like your second belt promotion. So I'm sorry, double the time. So it took you a year and a half to get your blue belt. It's going to take about 3 years to get your purple belt. Okay. So now you've got like 4 or 5 years under your belt there. Then it doubles that to get your brown belt. So this is like in theory. Okay. So it should take somewhere around there, you know, like 5 years or so to go from purple to brown, maybe a little less, maybe 4 years. And then it'll take another good number of years. But my point is you get from like purple to brown or brown to black is a significantly slower process than getting from white to blue. And if you think that the journey is like, oh man, I got my blue belt in a year. So I trained and I got my blue belt in a year. And if I'd have thought, great, 4 more years, I'm a black belt. It ain't going to happen. For me, I'm a purple belt right now. I've been taking jiu-jitsu, been going for almost 16 years. I'm the longest out of everybody I know, just about. I'm like the worst purple belt that everybody knows. I should be a black belt by now. Sometimes I'll run into guys, you know, at a different school or whatever. And they're like, how long have you been training? I'm like, well, I've been training for 16 years, but I'm a purple belt. Why? I don't come every week. I don't come 4 or 5 times a week. I'm like a 1 or 2 time a week guy. It's a slow journey for me. I don't really care how long it takes to get my black belt. So it's a similar type of thing. All right. We'll do a couple more and we'll wrap up. It says, Carl says, to me, it's all about shut up and play. Okay. Rick says the BB example is a wonderful example of the attitude in this lesson. I hope you're not saying that I have the bad attitude, but I think you're saying that, and which is fine if you are, but I think you're saying that that's the attitude that I'm articulating. Carl says music is fluid knowledge. Staking a spot is your nail in life. Okay. And Sir Fuzzy Logic says, that's also a great name. Glad to see you still out there making content, Kennis. Hey, I appreciate that. And I'm going to be making more coming up. In fact, this week I'm going to try to film a whole series on putting together an acoustic pedal board, and that people have asked about. A couple of people have asked, how do you build an acoustic pedal board? And so I've got 3 videos planned on that, and I'll probably drip them out over the next couple weeks. But guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here and hanging out with me on this. And I will be back next week, probably at 9:30 or 10. It seems like I can't get the 9 going. So 9:30 or 10 for this live stream. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to end it here, and hopefully we are good to go. So adios, amigos. I'll see you next week.